Cambridge Insider podcast time again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cambridge Insider podcast. My co-host, as always, Miss Leanna. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. I know I always talk about the weather, but it is 80 degrees and sunny in Philadelphia, so I'm extra good today.
It's done a quick switcheroo from like spring, I'm holding on to winter to like full-blown summer. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm ready for it.
Exactly. I'm super excited for today's episode because we're changing things up a little bit. And we've actually got a very special guest. We've actually got one of our current students who we're going to be talking to in just a little bit. Leanna, just quickly from your side, why is it important, do you think? I'm going to put you on the spot for us to have current students on this podcast.
I think it's so important because one, we don't know who our listeners could be. We could have students listening here, and I think students hearing from a student such as our guest here, who we'll get to know in a minute, but our listeners will quickly find out why she was invited onto our podcast. Exactly. Hearing students getting their experiences, I think our school partners can benefit from this too. This is why we do what we do. It's for our students to have a great experience. So hearing their experience and their background is going to help us do what we do better.
Exactly. Well said. I know you're going to kill me after this episode for putting you on the spot, but there we go. I like to keep things natural.
Yeah, that question was not pre-planned, folks, so forgive me.
Not at all. Not at all. So without further ado, I'd like to, welcome to the Cambridge Insider podcast, one of our current students from Chicago. She's a 12th grader, and I'm hoping I'm going to get this right. It's Shaelyn Xia. Shaelyn, welcome. Yeah, perfect. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Good, super good.
Awesome. You coming to us directly from Chicago at the moment?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Shaelyn, welcome. I hope it's going to be a good experience. Why don't you take just a minute or so to tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Shaelyn. I'm from China. I go to Regina Dominican, which is our girls' high school. I'm currently a senior and graduating this May. I am a dancer. I have been dancing for 3 years. I play tennis, softball, and bowling for fun. And my favorite book is Educated by Tara. And I am a big fan of detective movies and books.
Wow. Shaelyn, I just want to pop in here and say that Educated by Tara Westover is one of my favorite books as well. Highly recommend it to anyone listening here. And extra thank you for being on the podcast today, because I know you just finished your 12th grade year. You're finally finished. And then we asked you to be a public speaker today and prepare to be on a podcast. So extra thank you for that.
Inviting me.
It's so awesome to have a student on, number one, that's finished and that's done really, really well. And we're going to hear a little bit more from Shaelyn, but also somebody who's so well spoken. Shaelyn, you're a natural. If things sort of run, not quite as you planned, as life generally does, you come back to Leanna and I, and we can have a third, co-host on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Shaelyn, let's get into some questions that we have lined up for you. Yeah. So, this year was obviously, will be known forever for being, COVID-19, the pandemic that ravaged, the whole world, but specifically had a big impact on students coming to the US for education. Tell our listeners a little bit, what are some of the hardships, some of the challenges that you experienced during this year? And what were some of the support systems, be that through your school or through Cambridge Network, that helped you to overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah. So when COVID happens, which is unexpected, the hardest part for me is enabling to hang out with my friend, and I can't go to school in person. So the school immediately provide online learning, which is really good for students because our study weren't, interrupted. And Cambridge also sent me a package that has all, mask, hand sanitizer, so which is really helpful because it happened too suddenly. So I didn't even prepare mask and hand sanitizer. So Cambridge offered me all kind of stuff. And also during that time, Cambridge offered do like a game night, like invite all kind of students and managers come to join, and we have a lot of fun. So which is really, make me not missing home that much, So
Yeah,
Yes.
Shaelyn, I actually wanted to ask you, so when was the last time you got to go home or to see your family?
it's like 2 years ago.
Wow.
Wow. So I can imagine that it's been really hard not being able to be around your family, be home. How's your host family been during this time?
Oh, my host mom, which is super, hyper, and she's energetic. And we played a lot of board game. We watched movie. We had our own party. It's like so much fun.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Shaelyn, I just want to say before Leanna hits you with another hard-hitting question, is that I'm so proud of you. I think the fact that you haven't been home in 2 years, you mentioned that one of the big challenges for you was not being able to be close to your family and your friends and not being able to hang out in a community. The fact that you've made it through, the fact that you've graduated, this is just an awesome achievement. So well done from Cambridge, from everybody involved with your school as well. It's a great achievement.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely agree. So my next question is, I know I'm listening to you thinking, if I were an international student, I'd be like, how can I be more like Shaelyn? How can I have an experience like she has had? So what is your advice to other international students, maybe starting their process or their journey in the US at a high school?
Yeah. So I will say there will be language barrier to overcome, but the best way to overcome is to practice daily with your friends, host mom, host parents. And to be honest, when I first came to US, I barely understand, what they are talking about, the conversation. But a funny story is like one of my friend asked me, "Oh, what's up?" I was like, I looked up. I was like, sky's up. What's up? You know? So it's like it's embarrassing, it's awkward, but look at me right now. I can speak no problem, and I can communicate, fluent. So it's like, you got to practice, cause practice not make perfect, but make better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I spent time in Spain and my Spanish is not perfect. And I did try to practice, but a lot of times what held me back was feeling embarrassed or just feeling ashamed of where my language level was. So, what would you say to students who are struggling with feeling embarrassed when they try to practice?
I mean, for me, I think you can practice with your Chinese friend, or your manager, Cambridge manager, because they won't laugh at you, to be honest. Like, because they are more like a family friend side, So, and to be honest, like the most helpful support I got from Cambridge is my manager Stephen, and he just like my big bro, always there, support me and care about me, checking with me every week, and we talk everything like school and home, just everything.
A shout out to our regional manager Stephen Glasby. He's been a guest on one of our podcast episodes. I always say to school officials, I think I've even said this on a podcast before, please don't compare me to Stephen Glasby because he's just an excellent, excellent human and probably one of the best employees that we have at Cambridge. So Stephen, if you're listening, thank you for everything that you do.
Absolutely. Shout out to Stephen Glassby. Yeah, he's my manager, by the way. Great manager. Also great SDM, student development manager, too, as we can confirm from Shaelyn. So yeah, super helpful to know. And this is great advice to international students, Shaelyn. So thank you for sharing. Let's talk about you and your plans after high school. What future plans do you have for yourself?
Yeah, so for short term, I'm going to be a TA, which is a teacher assistant in Indiana University in the summer. And it's a 2 month internship. So mostly my work is grading students' work, assist the professor, And for a long-term plan, I'm working on my own nonprofit organization, which is offering free online tutoring for students who are struggling with remote learning or had difficult, during COVID.
Wow.
That is incredible. I don't think I've ever heard of a TA or teaching assistant who's coming in as a freshman. So that is pretty incredible. And someone your age starting a nonprofit and offering services to students just like yourself this past year is really incredible. And I think this is a perfect time for me to mention that Shaelyn was honored with the Cambridge Network Valedictorian Award too, just recently. So huge shout out to her. You're doing amazing things.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm just struck, Shaelyn, by how you mentioned it when you were talking about your language and how you overcame that difficulty. And now with becoming a TA, with starting a nonprofit, you're just throwing everything that you have into this. And I love it because I think if you commit in that way, at least you're not going to wonder what if. You're just going to go, you know what, I've had this wonderful opportunity to live my dream in America. I'm just going to go out there and give everything that I have.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Shaelyn, I do have one other question that we didn't go over beforehand, but what high school experiences do you think helped you to become such a confident, well-rounded student has the confidence to go on and do these great things after high school? Were you involved in a lot of things throughout your years?
Yes. So my first factor I will say is all girls high school. Because why I went to Regina? It's like it's unexpected because it's all girls, right? And I never been to all girls school before. So why go there? And it's like all surprising. Like people are confident in school, and school offers a leadership program for a female student, which is really helpful for girls to build confidence. Because first year I was in Boston, and which is mixed, is a school, and we can see, especially in the classroom, like mostly male students raise their hand no matter they know the answer or no. But in all girls high school, and we raise our hand no matter the answer is right or wrong. So which is really helpful for students to build confidence. And my second factor is to participate, to get involved all kind of school activities, because if you never try, you never know what you interested in and what your potential is. So I play, as I said, I play softball, tennis, bowling, and also I'm in my dance team. Also I'm in student government and leadership program. Yes.
Wow, incredible. One of my favorite quotes is that life starts at the end of your comfort zone. And I am sure, Shaelyn, that you were stepping outside of your comfort zone when you joined all of those organizations and clubs at school. Maybe you didn't know anyone to start with. Maybe you were unsure if you had the skills for those clubs or organizations, but you just went for it anyway, and you got so much out of it. So huge kudos to you for pushing yourself and taking those steps.
Thank you.
Agreed. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's another feel-good episode. I feel like the feel-good episodes we're just piling them on one after the other. Shaelyn is, I think, the epitome of like a success story when it comes to what can be, achieved when you come through Cambridge, when you partner with a great school and you're able to sort of live your dreams out. Shaelyn, thank you so much. From the Cambridge Insider podcast team, we appreciate you giving your time. We know you're incredibly busy. There's a lot of things happening. We wish you all of the very best in the future. Is there any final thoughts, final things that you'd like to share or leave our listeners with?
Yes, I will say to every student who are trying to come or planning to come, always be yourself and try new things, be open-minded. Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow, great final thoughts. My
Exactly.
heart just feels so warm and happy right now.
Leanna, I'm going to allow you to not have any final thoughts just because Shaelyn's was so good. Maybe you don't want to have final thoughts because you don't want to be overshadowed. It's up to you. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I agree. Shaelyn has taken the show away, and her final thoughts will carry us through here. We're so happy to have you, Shaelyn. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. To all of our listeners, we appreciate you guys. As always, remember to like, listen, subscribe, share the podcast. Things are going up. The light at the end of the tunnel is coming nearer. Happy spring, happy summer, and we'll catch you all around the next episode of the Cambridge Insider podcast. Bye-bye, everybody.